Opo yako. Watu nani watu wake? Ya ugali. Watu nani watu wake?
Simiyu. Teramuka, unaona pikipiki nyuma yako? Alafu usiende direct, weka tukande hivi. Ndio tupate picha. Sawa, ndio nasema.
Acha na watu kumanga. Ni karibu.
Hiyo maji. Kuje. Kwa maji. Kuje. Hiyo maji.
Jamaa anataka kuingia hapo katikati. Unaona sababu yake?
Tunakwambia. Hata ile pikapu ya KCB ile.
Now was my
Simiyu. Cheza kama wewe.
Kamera inaenda
Mario, kamera inakuacha. Wewe, sijui unapita. Simiyu bwana. Rudi nyuma.
Reverse.
Ndio before.
Reverse chap chap.
Mazuri tatukunja miguu hapa.
Reverse chap chap.
Sasa tumeingiwa kabisa. Ndio kuingiwa. Profesa ndio hao. Sababu kushuka hapa. Hapa kushuka tu ndio sababu. Wapi kijana wangu bwana? Nampona.
Nilikuwa nasema kuna
Kam.
karibu bwana.
Ngoja Simiyu.
Sema. Hello. Ongea sauti.
Nishike vizuri
Link nitafanya the moment nimepata nafasi.
Kamera bwana, unafaa kwa huko una shoot hivi, unatoa tu hivyo. Wewe sijaenda na wewe assignment ndio hapo, umejua hii tu. Have you ever been to such a kind of a job? Yes.
Ndio karibu opo yako. Watu nani watu
Teremuka, unaona pikipiki nyuma yako? Alafu usiende direct, weka tukande hivi. Ndio tupate picha. Sawa? Ndio nasema.
Hata na watu komanda. Ni mtarizo.
Hiyo maji. Kuje. Kuje.
Jamaa anataka kuingia hapo katikati. Unaona hesabu yake.
Tunakwambia hata ile tukapia KCE ile. Cheza kama wewe.
Or something. Yes. And then he had his master's. He had his doctorate. He had his other knowledge, skilled investigations. So which one really would MAGOHA would have put? I would say perhaps he was spoiled for choice. But this is also letting us into the world of who Professor George MAGOHA was, away from the public life, away from public service, away from his stand in the education sector. He was just a man. He was a human being. And this is what the family has really illustrated or showed to us. He was just Mzee MAGOHA, as they called him. And so when you look at that, you just see MAGOHA, without everything else, the human that he was, the father that he was, the husband that he was, and the grandfather that he was.
Of course. Amazing. And therefore, this is the conversation, Lois. I want us to quickly also look into...
Ndio karibu opo yako.
Teremuka, unaona pikipiki nyuma yako?
Cousin, I don't know, but he's definitely a member of the family.
Ndio nasema.
Acha na watu komanda. Ni karibu.
Kuje. Kuje.
Jamaa anataka kuingia hapo katikati. Unaona sababu yake.
Unakwambia hata ile
We are seeing also the former president Uhuru Kenyatta.
Oh, now we are also seeing our former president Uhuru Kenyatta has on his way, and he is being ushered here. So the ceremony has been received by CSICT, Bwana Owalo, alongside others. And the crowds here have given him an accolade, clap, and celebration filled the way of receiving former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And Mwasame, former President Uhuru is really the person who went on to identify the many talents that were in the late Professor MAGOHA when he appointed him as the person of men. At this time, MAGOHA was preaching the VC of Nairobi University. Afterwards, they're thinking, what's next? Do I go back to class? Do I go back home and relax a bit? But Uhuru Kenyatta said, hey, come here and serve as the chairperson of the Kenya National Examination Council. And it is this platform that gave MAGOHA a house of 1.5 Later, when that chapter came to a close, President Uhuru Kenyatta went on to give him yet a bigger and more huge responsibility, that of
Have you ever been to such a kind of a job? Yes.
politician, Jeremiah Kioni, just walking Masame, when you were talking to us, yes.
Legally, he's still the Secretary General. He was out yesterday, but he says he's staying put, and therefore, if he gets an opportunity, he'll have to clarify that.
Remember how we said we start politics immediately after a general election? So that is what Jeremiah Kioni is currently dealing with in his interim. But Mosame, you had mentioned that Uhuru Kenyatta is the person who identified the talent and the man that was the late Professor George MAGOHA. I would also want to know, perhaps George MAGOHA received very good support from the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, because it is one thing to be a cabinet secretary. It is another thing to have all the support that you need, especially in such a high-profile docket, such a very highly sensitized docket, a docket of education. And so as Uhuru Kenyatta will be making his speech as a former president, it will be... Education was always winning, so there was a lot of support and perhaps a lot of groundwork or behind the scenes going on. And what
Tunarudi ama tunaenda Mario?
Turudi. They're going straight out. They're going out with this champion, eh?
Okay.
Yes.
Again, Lois, it's important to note that some of the people who served with Professor MAGOHA could just talk about him without fear of contradiction, that he was a no-nonsense man. And therefore, like you said, politicians are still streaming in.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to keep politics out of politicians. I do understand that it will not be very easy for the MC to keep politics at bay at this particular funeral. Lazima kidogo itatokea.
I just give him a tip. Just ask them to stand up and raise their hands and say hello to Wananchi. I don't know what that would happen. But Moseme, you are touching on how Professor MAGOHA seems to have this seamless transition from one office to another.
Yes, yes.
We see him starting as a lecturer in Lagos. Later he comes to lecture at the University of Nairobi. He goes on to become the dean of the dean at the University of Nairobi. We see him also becoming the VC. When his term comes to end, we see him transitioning into NEC as the chairperson. When his term also came to an end, we see him transition into a cabinet secretary for education. When that came to to an end after the general election. You said he went back to class and he didn't bother after coming from a such high profile and among the biggest jobs in public service in the country. He went back perhaps to where he started. Remember, he started as a lecturer and now he had gone back to class again. But then again, Masame, this shows us the kind of passion that the late professor had, and away from his other accolades, away from his undergraduate degrees, from his master's, from his PhD, this particular Professor George MAGOHA was a respected human health researcher with his background being in medical training. Now, there was something that he was doing which is very, very interesting, and that is research. He put a lot of research into his life, and he was instrumental in discovering a number of drugs treatment. This shows that he was, as much as he was applying his career day to day in matters education, in matters public service, his number one love, his number one profession, matters education, were key to him. There's this research, a number of researches that he engaged in. We are told that one of the researchers included the cancer of prostate, where MAGOHA investigated the epidemiology and clinical behavior of prostate cancer in black Africans in a study, and he collaborated with the University of Lagos and of course at the universities across the world. But you see, MAGOHA was, perhaps this was his way of offering solutions to Africans, because he comes from Africa, offering solutions to Kenyans and others. And you see, his study was tailor-made. This particular study for cancer of the prostate, it was tailor-made in investigating the epidemiology and clinical behavior of prostate cancer in black Africans. That shows MAGOHA's passion was also in creating solutions. And away from other studies, we see these are the number of scholarly work that he engaged himself in.
Also of importance also to note that cancer of the testicular system, this is something that he carried out. He conducted an extensive research on testicular cancer to determine why the disease is uncommon among black Africans. And he really wanted to also get solutions to this particular disease, because this is the man who was on a mission, like we rightfully mentioned earlier on. He's a man who could mean business, go for it, and he actually got answers. I remember that was not the only research he did. Yes, he also made a research on the cancer of the penis. This is actually about us and me.
Interesting.
Yes.
And here MAGOHA conducted research on penile cancer in Africa. Such an interesting conversation. And what he wanted to know, if there was a link between this type of cancer and circumcision in adolescents and adults. Yeah?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
This is something that's interesting in this, the CV. That explains why his CV was as huge as you saw it in Parliament when he turned up for vetting. This is a man whose CV could not even fit in a lorry. I could say that like that lorry that Azimio la Umoja carried out and presented at the Supreme Court. That is how his CV could look like. This is a man who did everything to make sure that he contributes heavily to the education standards, both in Kenya and even at international standards.
And you see, more summer, clearly Professor MAGOHA, the late professor, was a bright brain. He was a bright boy right from his young age. But how do you become a professor? And instead of just settling and just operating at your big offices in Nairobi, you yet again dig deeper to start seeing how the knowledge you have acquired on clinical medicine can be of benefit to fellow Africans and humanity in general. And so here we also saw Professor MAGOHA do a very recent study. He did a very recent study, and I want to imagine this was around the time that he was serving as cabinet secretary. He did a study focusing on HIV protection. Here, he collaborated on the study with the University of Manitoba in Canada and the University of Washington Washington in the United States. The study was conducted in Kisumu, and this study sought to determine the effect of circumcision on the incidence of HIV. So Masame, really, this is Professor just trying to share the information that he had gathered, just trying to share the knowledge that he had gathered, so that even if MAGOHA is teaching in class, then there is a study, there is a research that he has done that can be used in Kenyan research documents or research programs to offer solutions to clinical African problems. And so he was just not concerned about what was in his head, but he made very many attempts to keep sharing and dispensing information. And even as we lay Professor MAGOHA to rest, these researchers, they're within the public domain, they're within the government hands. And so even if he's gone, there are reference points, there are areas where the government can borrow in matters of HIV prevention and circumcision. Recently here in Kisumu, he conducted a study determining the effect of circumcision on the incidence of HIV. He also did that research that we talked earlier about cancer of the penis, the testicular system, and prostate cancer. And his concern was the manner in which the disease was manifesting or presenting itself to Africans. Perhaps he noted it's quite different from the Western world. And he was trying to pass a message that perhaps if we do these findings, if we observe the conclusions that he got in that study, perhaps we can offer solutions, especially to the cancer pandemic in the country, which has become quite rampant. And so away from his cabinet secretary duties, away from his class duties, he went ahead to do research, to put his brain and skill into work, and to produce proper research documents to keep supporting clinical medicine, even as we lay him to rest later. Beyond today, we still have footprints of MAGOHA and works that the government and the Ministry of Education could perhaps reference to, and even the Ministry of Health, and make a stride or two, especially in epidemiology, which is also where he did one of his master's degree.
It also needs some great mind to put into perspective the achievements of Professor MAGOHA, and that is why you are here. You're also a great lady because you put into perspective some of the research achievements that Professor MAGOHA made. And he was a very dedicated public servant. This is a man who did a lot of things while he was in office. Professor MAGOHA, for example, he was a very serious performer. He learned to separate his work and social life during his many years in public service. This is a man who began his medical career modestly as an intern at Lagos University, teaching also in 1978, Lois.
And before you leave there, Masame, do you see how humbly he started? Like every other graduate.
Yes.
He started down there.
Very low. Then surgeon at the same hospital, that is Lagos University, teaching hospital in 1978. He became a resident surgeon at the same hospital the following year and served with the utmost integrity, Lois, and even fidelity to ethics for 3 years.
Mama irokamano kuom chukri michopo. We have the family of Ogola William. Please, if you could all be upstanding. The family
and if he had energy
John
in
Obare,
his 60s, the kind of energy we
would I just make it simple? All the MAGOHAs who are here, just please, all the MAGOHAs who are here, please do stand. Then Mama Mary, you can sit and stand. Or be upstanding. The members, these members of the late Richard,
as well as the Mutahi Clinic and the Duro Soile Hospital by 1986. This is a man who dedicated his work serving humanity, and both in hospital and in class. And that's why, despite the fact that he had served the Kenyan children and teachers at those capacities as the next chairman, as the CS for education, he could still get time and energy at 71 years going back to Maseno University to teach. This is a serious man, and that's why we are here talking about this great man who is going to be laid to rest today.
Yeah, Mosame, and it is at that point that now he decided, let me go back home. Let me take my talents, let me take my strengths. We do not know what exactly made him come back home, but I want to imagine that was part of his motivation, seeing as he's a great public servant, a man who's always willing to dispense the knowledge and the skill that he has. And so in the year 1988, he comes back to Kenya. So he comes with a degree in clinical medicine with his first master's and his wife, Barbara.
What kind of achievement was that? Very great achievement. So therefore, he could not stop there. You have mentioned that he came here back in 1988. His ascension through the ranks was steady but quick. The following year, that was 1989.
Acknowledge the presence of members of parliament, Honorable Oku Kaunya, Teso North, Honorable Mili Odhiambo Mbita, Honorable Gogo Rangwe, Honorable Martin
stand up, and they became even a second sub-county. I want to thank you most sincerely. May the good Lord that I believe in, that I worship, take care of you as we wait on our day. Mama, it shall be well. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever thy Lord thou hast it to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. Bwana CS Machogu, and convey to the President that we are grateful for how you have assisted us. Jodalawa, Jogem, Warwa Kwelo Gisironyo, Wako Professor Gisironyo, Nikeji Gemka, Emajio Some Moingo Kunde Duto. Gima Chopgo, I'll just ask my colleagues to stand where they are, because you have been acknowledged, so that the public can see you. Kindly stand up. Thank you for coming. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. I don't know why you didn't become a priest. You went into politics. Yes, yeah. I'm going to ask my former colleague, CS Rachel Omamo, to come and give a tribute on behalf of all of us who served in the same cabinet with CS MAGOHA. And I think other members of parliament have arrived. Honorable Ngondo Were of Kasipul, Honorable Babu Owino,
that is
Embakasi.
they are also
Babu Owino, you'll have to tell me what you tell people so that then you're so popular. Whatever you do, teach some of us. And I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Ambassador Dr. Josephine Ojambo, who was a Rotarian with the professor in Nairobi.
I'm also uno kwe. I'm also uno murembe. Anyinga woro mamo. Kawono. Adwa golo. Neno. Osiepwa. Professor George MAGOHA. First, let me convey to Dr. Barbara MAGOHA, her wonderful son Michael.
Good afternoon.
Professor MAGOHA. Condolences on the passing of Professor MAGOHA. I also want to thank everyone who has turned out here in large numbers to condole with the family. I thank President Kenyatta. I thank all the governors and everyone else of high office, and everyone else here, all the mourners who have come to stand with this family and to acknowledge what kind of a man Professor MAGOHA was and will always be. We served with Professor MAGOHA in cabinet, and he taught us many things. One thing Professor MAGOHA was, he was obedient, he was diligent, he was hardworking, and mostly he was not afraid. There was nothing, no task that you gave Professor MAGOHA that he did not feel he could do, that he did not feel that he could surmount. He wasn't a person who was frivolous. Professor MAGOHA would never engage in idle talk. He would never gossip. He would never waste time. He often told us that he did not want to stay in the office, and what he wanted to do was to be out there in the field, engaging with teachers, engaging with students, transformation in that sector through his own eyes. We received news of the loss of Professor MAGOHA with great sadness, with great shock. Discharged his duties as the Minister, the CS of Education. I don't think that he could have done much more. He leaves us, he shows us what it means to be selfless, that the Lord win it. We pray.
That will be followed by CS, this current CS for
the fourth president of Kenya, Mama Barbara, fellow mourners who are here, Bwana Sifiwe, Auntie Anna Chien. My name is Florence Bore, CS Labor and Social Protection. We've lost, let's see, the President, William Ruto, invited the outgoing cabinet to have lunch with the new cabinet. He was very humble, and he was able to make it for that lunch. And when we went through on the outgoing team, that they were welcome, even for, he looked so excited about that. And I think he was ready to give back to the society. He wrote, we didn't see that, and he brought a wife all the way from Nigeria. And, you know, we've seen that part of him during this period. And I want to say, Pole sana for the loss. We are with you, and may God give you strength. Strength, encourage you, even during this period. Mungu wabariki sana sana. Thank you.
Thank you, the family of my friend, my brother MAGOHA, Dr. Papra MAGOHA, Michael MAGOHA, the entire nuclear and extended family, Your Excellency, the fourth former President of the Republic of Kenya, the members of Parliament present, my colleagues from Cabinet. I'm here this day when on the 24th of January at around 6, we received the sad news of the demise of Professor MAGOHA. Each and every one of us was in shock, indeed profound shock and disbelief. We said, no, it cannot be, but there it was, our brother, our friend, had passed on. Professor MAGOHA, not only in the Ministry of Education, was a distinguished scholar, a medic of his own class, a man who served this country with distinction, a man we are here celebrating today
who indeed had a purpose in life, a man who was selfless, a man who has left footprints in the means of education and other areas in this country that can never be erased. Indeed, Mama, this man was great. As I told you in Nairobi, he was a great family friend because, Your Excellency, when you appointed him in 2019, he looked for a man who was working in the University of Nairobi as a lecturer, Machogu Junior, Paul Machogu, and they took him over as his senior legal advisor. Each and everywhere where MAGOHA was, they worked with that young man who assisted him in what he was doing. As a family, I undertook to do one thing, that indeed I also have to reciprocate, and that's why when MAGOHA was arrived, he made one request to me, saying he has a sister that he wanted the government to consider for something, and I want to inform you, the people of Game, that when I discussed with His Excellency the President, he agreed to the request of MAGOHA, and that the sister is going to work in the government of Kenya. And also, because they are the great scholar, I want to thank Maseno University because they agreed to give him a praise to come and teach and do research. And actually, it was only 10 days before him passing over, Vice Chancellor and the team, University Council. For that, we thank you so much. And for this campus, in memory of our late brother Professor, as government, I will be able to inform His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and I'm sure that in memory of our good professor, we will be able to do more as far as this university is concerned. Now, I want all those from education ministers to stand up because we are quite a number here. And as they stand, I ask my brother Omoro, PS Internal Security, also to come so that he can be able to introduce the principal secretary that is present here. And all those in Ministry of Education, please stand. In brother Omoro is the PS Internal Security. Thank you. Our brother Omoro is the PS Internal Security, and is also going to introduce. Welcome, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Welcome. So, yeah.
You'll be my number one. You'll be my number one. You are my number one. I am proud to.
itifaki, protocol officers, kindly make sure all our guests are seated. Ningeomba, ikiwa wewe ni mwanahabari, kuna sehemu maalum iliyotengwa. Kwa hivyo wapiga picha na waandishi wetu wapendwa, tuelekee kwa sehemu hizo teule. Vile vile ningeomba ukiwa mgeni kukushukuru kwa kuwasili, ila ni kanisani huko.
Asante sana ndugu yangu. I think for our Nigerian in-laws, now you know you are at a Luo funeral in Siaya. Now you know you are at a Luo funeral. The Prime Minister Raila Odinga has arrived. When I talked with him on phone yesterday, he told me he'll be coming, but he did not tell me the style with which he'll come. So he's come, and there's been a lot of excitement. So let me just ask everyone to get back to your seats, and we continue with the program. The person who is to speak next, he had been invited.
Mheshimiwa Tuju, to the family of the late Professor Dr. Barbara, Michael, and the extended family, all elected leaders present, and fellow mourners. I'm also Kawuono wabiro iko Professor. Mara there is Mobiro Kod Wako Professor. Kindly seek education, Dr. Belio Kipsang, just wave. And then there is the one word to the family. It's on behalf of the ministry and the rest of the government. In my own personal capacity, we've had to interact to ensure that we have a decent send-off for Prof. I pray that the grace of the Almighty God be with you.
I think we may have a little musical interlude while we are sorting out a few things and waiting for Raphael. Choir or DJ, weka kitu kidogo. People.
Thank you. Kakana wachunu ne liel wanyalo bedo gi program to nyaka wad just program kalure giwelo mawayudo. Omentire adjustment moke program mungi ono. Agoero kamano kuom kwe muse bedo godo. Kendo I like to apologize for the seating arrangements. We tried our best, but it is not every day that as a family we have to organize something as big as this. So if there are any shortcomings, please forgive us. It's not because we slighted you, our guest. No, it's just because it was tough for us to organize a big thing like this from Nairobi to here at home and so forth. So I know that there's been a little bit of challenges with respect to the seating arrangements, especially for the VIPs. I'm going to ask, after consultation, that we'll have the eldest in the family now, who is John Obare, to come and make his remarks. and that will be followed by our in-law. Thank you.
The church, to our beloved guests, to our retired President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, to my dear sister-in-law, represent East Africa when we tulifuruta wewe tukalete wewe pande hii. Follower of my mother who is now 100 years old. And to everybody else who has taken his time or her time to come and help us mourn my brother, I say karibuni. Na pamoja na hiyo nasema asante. Kabla sijaendelea na maneno, nataka kuwashukuru watu wote ambao, all the people who participated
Asante sana DJ. Niombe kuheshimu kuwasili kwake kinara wetu mpendwa Injinia Daktari Amolo Odinga. Na sasa niombe kwa heshima na taadhima kuu wengine wetu tupate kuketi.
In the middle of my speech when Raila Amolo Odinga, the former Prime Minister, and my friend came in. My greetings to you, Wunya Bondo. I will now give a very brief speech on behalf of the MAGOHA family. As brief as the tail of a pig. Annus mirabilis means when the queen had a problem, she sounded it by saying annus mirabilis. Translated means a very bad year. So we, the MAGOHA family, have had our annus mirabilis, but since we believe in God, we thank God for giving us our brother and for the life he lived. So in short celebration, we are celebrating his life, not mourning. Because even if we mourn until all the tears fill the ocean, we shall not bring him back. Who am I to pay tribute to MAGOHA? And you people have done it. The scholars, the politicians, the ordinary people from Samburu, from Kajiado, they have all spoken well about my brother. So there is no need for me to add anything. If I have to give myself 10 marks, I will only give myself that marks because I stayed with him during his primary education until his secondary education, and I also helped him to bring his beautiful wife, who is now his widow. One thing, you people who do not know MAGOHA, he has written a book, and that book has a lot. why don't you buy it and read it? And this goes equally to my siblings. Most of you have not bought that book. You wanted to be given a complimentary like I was given, but you never got it. Instead of buying whiskey, buy that book and read it. Just before he died, as has been mentioned here by Raphael, we were engaged in preparing the burial of his follower, Professor Richard Alexander Nyabera. We sat, he built for him his home because we had promised. He had gone away without the Luo procedure, no wokie simba. So he went without establishing a home. So we had to establish one for him. Now George spent a lot of money doing that. But on the week before he died, we sat in my house, relatives only, and we agreed that we should give a contribution, a token contribution towards bringing the body back, not for the house. And I, as the eldest, I was challenged. I had to move my seat near him because I don't have very good ears. Then we spoke. Luckily, I had some money on my phone. I transferred it to his phone. I told him, now I've set the ball rolling. And then I got other members of the family, and they raised the money which he wanted. And that money was to be raised within 48 hours. That is the last thing that he did publicly with me. We had our lunch, and he went away. That was on a Friday, Saturday. On Tuesday, I rang him, and I asked him, when exactly is the body arriving so that we can meet it? I realized he wasn't talking very well. So I asked him, what is the problem? I am not feeling very well. Okawinj maber. But I can manage. That is the last time we spoke. The next thing I heard from my wife the following day was that Professor was gone. Do not be discouraged. Those of you who are here, I'm now an old man. I've seen a lot. I saw my friend Agwings die, JM die. That has not stopped me from living. You have courage and work hard. Hakuna chabure. Munasikia? Well, the fourth president has told you many times, hakuna chabure. Lakini mukijaribu mtapata. To my sisters, the two of them, and my brother Joseph, remain focused on what our mother's legacy, what George's legacy has been. To everybody else, those who loved my brother, have peace. Pray for him. If he wronged you, forgive him. Please, I repeat, forgive him, because nobody is perfect. Deo Wudinya Sakwa, goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my brother Obare. That was very well spoken. I'm going to ask Dr. Ifyok Isien, who is brother to Dr. Barbara MAGOHA, to come and make some remarks. Please, let's give him a chance. Yodala wa mantil o kokanyo wakwayu mondo uye mondo ulinge matin mondo welo ogi otie kwach.
Good morning, our lordships. Good morning, the fourth president of Kenya. Good morning, the former Prime Minister. My dear in-laws, Ukoromi, Yaikom Kenan. Asante, asante. Thank you very much. You all know Professor MAGOHA as an adult, as a professor, a full, hard-working man. I knew Professor MAGOHA as a young man in the medical school. So like I used to tell him, a teacher was once a student. I was 3 years his senior. So the iron that you have seen today was forged in Nigeria, exactly in the College of Medicine of the University of Lagos. These are the features I saw of him. A hard-working young man, very sincere, extremely sincere. He worked very hard, and with him he had his siblings, Joe and Pauline. He came into our family, and let me use the word kindly. He applied to join our family. We are all families of doctors. My father is a doctor. 4 of my siblings are doctors. 3 of my children are doctors. So when he to vet it very seriously, and when you see that we accepted him, you can see the product. You see the finished product. You see what he did to Kenya. God be praised. I didn't know that he will have a shorter life. He could have done more, but it appeared that hurry was because he had a lot to do, and he needed time to do it. He did what he wanted to do. But I thank God that whatever he did, he brought peace and joy. He was straightforward. He could step on anybody's toes, but you couldn't doubt one thing. He was very sincere. Please, George, rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are almost reaching the end. Presiding priest, I like to just make a small explanation. I'm going to call upon the governor of Siaya to speak, but before I do that, before I call the governor of Siaya to speak, I'd like to call a person who you don't know is a relative actually in this home. Among us, the Luos, I did surprise the president that Professor MAGOHA was my cousin, and we kept it a secret because otherwise maybe we would have considered twice having cousins sitting in the same cabinet. But you may not be aware, but Ida Odinga is also related to the home. You've heard about Elizabeth, who is 100 years old. Sister to Mama Elizabeth is Pauline Anyango. That is where Pauline Dola, she's actually Pauline Anyango Dola, gets her name from. And Pauline's daughter, which is, an auntie to Professor MAGOHA, Pauline's daughter, Noela, is here. I don't know if Raymond is also here. Noela, would you please stand up if you are anywhere so we can acknowledge you? Yeah, that's Noela Oyo. And she's first cousin to Professor MAGOHA. She happens to be married to Ida Odinga's elder brother. You see how these things get mixed up? Yeah? And that's why I always tell my Luo brothers, don't hit somebody else. Don't be mean to somebody because you don't know where you're going to meet. You'll get very ashamed, right? So, Madam Ida, if you'd like to come and say something, and I would like Noela, with your permission, can we also ask you just to stand so that we acknowledge you? Noela. Let's give Noela a clap, please.
To the family
to the family of Professor George Omore Magoha, my friend Barbara, and the others, I wish just to convey my sincere condolences to this family. Just as I think you can now hear me. Okay. Good. To the family of Professor George Omore Magoha, I would like to convey my sincere condolences and the family, from my family to your family. We've had a long connection with this family. Standing next to me is my sister-in-law. She was married to my brother that I come after in Bath. And she's a cousin to George Omore Magoha. Now, the long relationship did not just start with her. I think Pauline Magoha, now Pauline Dollar, that was my student. The others, Joe was an administration in my home. So I know the family very well. Now it is sad that we are losing George at this time when he's just at the prime of his life. In fact, this is the time that George was really coming out as the best. And then death, without warning, decided to take him away. Jodalawa, Jogame, Untie, and bende anyar game. Anyar ukaya Buckingham Palace ka. Omioka biroka, literally, abiro yuago wadwa. To wago most ni Jogame, to giji duto, and particularly those in the education sector, because the foundation that he put in the education center is very strong, and I hope it will be followed to the latter. Now, Okado Achomangeng, we just pray to God, may the Lord God rest his soul in eternal peace. Amen.
Thank you very much. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of another colleague of Professor Magoha. Eugene Wamalwa is with us here. Let's give him a clap. Thank you. Then there's Vice Chancellor Rasom Tum of Mombasa University. He also joined us. There are two more members of Parliament, Dr. Nyekal from SEME and Member of Parliament Opio Wantai has also joined us. Thank you very much. I just like to make a few remarks as matter of encouragement before I ask our governor, who will in turn then invite the Prime Minister, who will in turn then invite the fourth President of the Republic of Kenya. I think at times like this, when there's no hope, sometimes, and I'm specifically addressing Dr. Michael Magoha, this is for you. There's a story. Some years ago, there was a little girl who lost both parents, and she was about 6 years old. And his uncle, a teacher, yes, I know that. Yes, okay. Sorry. I'm told there's Adipo Kwame and James Koyo, and just as a matter of protocol, we'll have Governor of Siaya speak. After that will be Honorable C.S. Owalo, who will read this President's speech. Then after that, it will be the Prime Minister. Then after that, His Excellency the President. That is the protocol. I've just been reminded. This I want to tell my son. There was a girl who was an orphan at age 6, and her situation was completely hopeless. Mother had passed on during the childbirth of our follower during those days, and the father died shortly after. Those days, even if you are poor, and that girl, no father, no mother, 6 years old, no dress, just a vest which had been lent by her uncle. And Mama Sarah made for her her first dress, because Mama Sarah gave her shelter. That girl later on got so no situation can be completely hopeless. So you lost your dad, it is painful, but you can't give up hope.
To Dr. Barbara MAGOHA, Dr. Michael MAGOHA, to the 4th President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru, to the People's President, Raila Amolo Odinga. Nemin Payne, Manya Game, Min Payne, Manya Game, Dr. Ida Odinga. To the county secretaries who are here, and the former county secretaries, to the deputy, to the leader of the minority in the, and to the county member of parliament, Dr. Christine Ombaka, Governor Emeritus of the great county of Kakamega, Wycliffe Ambesa Oparanya. To the Governor Emeritus of Siaya County, Woodruth Kone Rasanga. You will excuse me because I must say a word in Luo. Then I'll say the rest in English. Jothurwa wa yiko woi ma katasani wan gisunga kode. Okwan gisunga kode. Mo golo word Kenyatta mido no Uhuru Kenyatta ni maliel mo kobare. Dengo uneno Uhuru Kenyatta ka. Ndiela liela ukado ka. Luoruru mineu. Luoruru mineu. Min MAGOHA manonyuolo MAGOHA. Moyiko bieche igem ka. Emomiyo MAGOHA koro waduoko kama min mare beneu ikie. Emomiyo wacho ni od meru kata chwer. Ten odu. Mane odu. No. Game onyuolo thuondi. Game ka edag somo. Wateru nyithindo somo mondo wanyuol MAGOHA moro. MAGOHA ko ano. Game onyuolo kil manokwongo e Kenya mangima. Miluongo nangi Agwenge Kodhek. To professor kopo ni bolo kidika to dipo kigo wi professor. Omiyo game ka King'ato wuondi ni nyalo wite kiri ka ji riek motamre gi nono. Mar ariyo, jothurwa, akwa nyaka wabed gi chiemo. Nyaka wabed gi chiemo e miechwa. Jaluo chon ne wacho no ka chiem dala u. Nikech jaluo ne en gi chiemo. Jaluo ne en gi chiemo. Omiyo adwaro an kaka ne umiya teko nabed gavana ma Siaya. Adwaro ni kola wabed gi chiemo e dala. Maka welo biro kako biro ni to an gi chiemo ma omiyogi. Emomiyo sama koth dwa chwe ni koluwore gi teko ma Raila odinga omiya, wakelo tingni e Siaya kendo tingni osedonjo e game. Tich ariyo nitie tingni manyien mabiro. Tawacho ni kitiyo gi tingano to iyudo kodhi nono, kodhi iyudo nono. En tinga ma pesa we mong'iewo, en kodhi ma pesa we mong'iewo. Ka tieko gi dholuo mang'eny osedhi loko alaro piny. Agwenge kodhek waiko ka. Mboya obiro iko agwenge ka, Mboya bende onindo. Uko bende onindo. Kik idhi kamoro mikuodhe ng'a jadala u kata ng'atu moro. Mana wacho. Yeah, Dr. Buru be odonjo. Dr. Buru Oginga Senator bondo donjo. Ani ng'eyo sama koro waloso kwa chapeny. Kendo adwan jagemi wuoth ki chapeny. Ki jaluo ti wuoth ki chapeny. Mondo wanen legacy mama go invite you to see. If you have ears to hear, President Uhuru Kenyatta was talking about affordable housing. I read somewhere about affordable housing. Those who are talking about Uhuru Kenyatta, I have never heard anyone criticizing affordable housing. And affordable housing is also coming to Siaya. It's coming because that's a policy that is engraved in the constitution and in the law and in the budget of the land. And therefore I ask you, as the people of Game and the people of Nyanza, we must live in this land called Kenya, knowing that we are citizens of Kenya, that are taxpayers and are ready to play their part in the development of the Republic of Kenya. And therefore, in that regard, let us not kill what those who founded this nation. Those who founded this nation. I'm afraid the way we are going, we may even kill multi-party. Nobody is above the law. Nobody is under the law. We are all equal before the Lord as we are equal before the Creator. And this conversation we must continue. Therefore, I'll conclude by saying, Dr. Barbara, Africa not have any walls. We just want bridges. Nigerians are our brothers. Ugandans are our brothers. And we only pray for peace in our neighborhood and in our land. Gimago mawacho, mabeyo modonyo ni te cow. Tomo kiero to wachini. All upon.
One second.
It's also an occasion for us
to undertake an introspection of Kenyans. That is it possible for us to continue with the good work that MAGOHA was doing? Or can we use this occasion to sue for unity of the country? Or can we use this occasion to reflect upon the deeds that all of us have been known for? The challenge is upon us. So I convey my condolences and the condolences of all members of the National Assembly from the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. One Kenya Coalition Party. Tokati yeko. Tanyakawache kimora ben. One kakajoluo. One kakajoluo. Kotel nwa jatendwa chiel. Maen Raila Amolo Odinga. Maen Raila Amolonga. Wachung kar tiendwa. Kendo wachung gichir. Kawang'eyo ni wane buopend chike mane Raila gi osiepene moko kedon. Kaka jimo wacho, wan gi nyadhi. Nikech wan ok wachiem ka ng'ato. Ok kamano. Wan ok wachiem ka ng'ato. Kendo ng'ata maparo ni sani koro siasa mar baba oduogo piny. En ng'ama leko. En ng'ama leko. Ok kamano. One solidly behind Baba. Kamonyiso wan wachome temo wadhiye. Konyiso wan left, right, about turn. Nyasaye madugwedhi urukamana ahinya.
Erokamano intellectual kora duoko microphone ni master of ceremonies osiepwa Rafael Tuju. Erokamano.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. On behalf of the family once again, I take this moment to invite CS Owalo to come and read the message of condolence from His Excellency President William Ruto. Thank you very much, CS, for coming, and we appreciate your presence here. And by the same token, I know there's going to be a vote of thanks, but we want to acknowledge the assistance that we have received from the government of Kenya. We also want to acknowledge the assistance that we received from the Prime Minister, and we want to acknowledge the assistance and kind support also we received from His Excellency, the 4th President, and all the support that we have received from current cabinet secretaries and former cabinet secretaries. Thank you, sir.
The MAGOHA family, led by Dr. Barbara and ably assisted by Dr. Michael, the 4th President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Mama Aida, the church, members of parliament present, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Indeed, I've known this family for close to 30 years. When I was doing my A-level studies at St. Mary's Yala here, where I was also a head student, I came to know the late Justice Masime. And by extension in the process, I also came to know the MAGOHA family. Mzee John Obare, who was speaking here, was a very close friend to a distinguished son of game by the name S.M. Owino-Gere, who was then one of the most accomplished lawyers in this country. I did get to know Owino-Gere through Mr. Obare, and when I went to Nairobi for the first time in the year 1990, the person I was living with is the late Owino-Gere. So I can say or state without fear of contradiction that I owe the people of Game, and by extension the MAGOHA family, a great debt of gratitude. Indeed, when reports circulated in the social media that Professor MAGOHA had passed on, and I was alerted by one of my staff in the office, I thought it was in reference to the brother. But those reports persisted. So I did call Dr. Aluoch, who actually confirmed to me that Professor MAGOHA had passed on about 5 minutes before then. Subsequently, I sent a text message to President William Ruto, who was out of the country, to alert him of Professor MAGOHA's death. And indeed, he called me back within a couple of minutes to confirm whether it was true that Professor MAGOHA had actually passed on, because it was barely 2 weeks when we were with him at State House. So I confirmed the same to him, and he told me, or he instructed me, to reach out to the Deputy President on his behalf to get further guidance as to how the current government, and by extension cabinet, could respond to that sad state of affairs. I was instructed by the Deputy President then to reach out to the family so that we could collectively become part and parcel of the preparations of that sad journey. So when I went to the family residence in Lavington, I had consultations with Dr. Barbara and son Michael and the Member of Parliament, Elisha, and they did actually make certain requests to the government, which I relayed back, and I'm happy to report that all that the MAGOHA asked for at that point in time by way of logistical support from the government of the Republic of Kenya indeed acceded to and went ahead to execute with precision. Two, I convey my personal condolences to the family. We have lost a great scholar. We have lost a renowned medic. We have lost an astute professional. This is not just a loss to the people of Game, but to the entire country, and by extension, the global medical fraternity. Because Professor MAGOHA has achieved almost all that a human being can achieve in life, I would say that what we need to do today is to join the family in celebrating his life. May I now, ladies and gentlemen, with permission from the congregation, take the distinguished honor and privilege to read the message of condolences from Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya. And I proceed. Message of condolence by His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, to the family of the late Professor George Omore MAGOHA. To Dr. Barbara MAGOHA, your son Dr. Michael MAGOHA, the extended MAGOHA family, and to the entire community of Mumira village and Nyamninia, to the wider Nyanza family, and to the people of Kenya who are touched at a personal level by the reason we are here today. I received the sad news of the sudden passing on of Professor George Albert Omore MAGOHA on 24th January 2023 with total surprise and disbelief. I wanted to believe that it was fake news in the post-truth times that we live in today. I tried to wish it away as a bad dream, but it was neither fake news nor a passing bad dream. We are all, therefore, slowly coming to terms with the harsh reality. The cruel hand of death has plucked from our midst one of our finest. We have lost an amazing person whom we have variously known as a colleague, a friend, a relative, a role model, and a mentor. Accordingly, we join the MAGOHA family here today for the final send-off. We have come here to bid farewell to a fallen national hero. Our departed friend has been the kingpin of this family and an icon for the rest of us. It is most difficult season for the family and friends, ladies and gentlemen, and I join myself with the MAGOHA family in your mourning. Poleni sana. I have had the privilege to know Professor MAGOHA from very close. Among other things, I served with him in the last cabinet. He was also the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi when I was the Minister for Higher Education. And our paths have also met in many other edifying places and ways. In all these, he leaves me with fond memories. I've known Professor MAGOHA as a most fascinating patriot who loved his country and enjoyed serving it. Professor MAGOHA loved doing his work. He had no half measures. He put his whole heart and his whole being into everything that he did. And he believed in whatever he did. If he did not believe in it, he did not even begin doing it, ladies and gentlemen. The patriot occupied large space everywhere he went. Those who got to know him well will remember him as the one man who believed in the possibility of a perfect universe. But Professor MAGOHA did not just believe that a perfect universe was possible. He spent his entire life and energy working towards the realization of this perfect universe. He will be remembered as a spirited go-getter. This focused gentleman did his utmost to rally teams around beliefs and causes. He set out to lead them to achieve the goals, and in the process, Professor MAGOHA turned out to be an astute administrator and institutional leader. He was an outstanding surgeon and a professional role model. As a scholar, he researched and published widely. He was faithful to the academic credo of his times, publish or perish. As a visionary scholar and leader, his towering dreams have been immortalized in his numerous research papers and in the iconic varsity towers at the University of Nairobi, which he believed was the only university in Kenya. He dedicated tour of duty as cabinet secretary, saw him set out to keep our children in school. He roamed in the villages in the countryside, looking for dropout children and returning them to the classroom. He visited individual homes in the slums and informal settlements to find out why children were not in school. He was at his happiest whenever he tracked down one child and returned them to school. Professor MAGOHA loved order, industry, and results. Once his eyes were fixed on the final prize, nothing could sway or discourage him. He was especially impatient with laziness and irresponsibility. He could not entertain mediocrity. He would speak plainly when taking to task the lazy and the irresponsible. He especially had no time for avoidable slowness of mind. He did not hesitate to call out the culprits in plain language. I will always remember Professor MAGOHA as a thought leader, an energetic worker, a frank man who did not know how to mince his words. I will recall him as a compassionate colleague who stood with those around him in difficult times, and as a conciliator who believed in dialogue as the best intervention in cases of conflict. I will remember his focus, great sense of humor, and his attention to sense of occasion too. Such is the kind of person we have come to pay our last respects to, fellow Kenyans. A man who grew to be bigger than the family space could hold, nor could this village hold. Nyanza could not hold him, the game could not hold him, and indeed Kenya could not hold him, and Kenya didn't. MAGOHA was a citizen of Africa and the entire world. He now belongs to the ages and rests with the sages. We who believe in resurrection and eternity know that he has moved on to everlasting consciousness. We therefore thank God for his life and for the promise of the life to come in the foreseeable future. We thank God for giving to us Professor MAGOHA and for the privilege of having been a part of this universe in this life. We certainly look forward to meeting him again in resurrection. Meanwhile, Dr. Barbara and the entire MAGOHA family, I say once again, poleni sana. May God wipe away your tears and sorrow. May he cause you to smile and laugh again. And may Professor George Albert Omore MAGOHA soul find perfect rest and peace in eternity. Amen. Dated this 11th day of February, the year 2023, William Samoei Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Waziri Owalo, Eliud Owalo. Thank you. In our program now, we're almost coming to an end. It's my privilege and honor to invite President Uhuru will not believe this. I'll invite my uncle, Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Thank you. Thank you. This is good. Hello? Mama Barbara MAGOHA, my brother President Uhuru Kenyatta, the clergy, fellow monarchs, hamjambo. We've come to pay tribute and farewell to a great Kenyan. And I want to say without fear of contradiction that right inside that coffin lies a great man. We have come because of the tragedy that has befallen us. Shakespeare said in Julius Caesar that cowards die many times before their death, but the brave do not taste of death but once. So let it be with George. A lot has already been said about George, and I want to basically confirm that everything that has been said about George is true. I came to know George when he was still a young man. That was spoken here. John Obaretula Udalonyo More. We mokmede moro. These are the people who received me when I came back from Europe, in Nairobi. John, his other late cousin Rangela Odundo, Michael Kinyanyi, Javan Chavanga, Okachudmon Bondo. Those are the people who received me in Nairobi and showed me the way of Nairobi. They're the ones who took me to the Ngong races. Kupiga farasi. And it is through that relationship that I got to know Professor. He was then a student at the Strathmore College, and a very diligent student, as you can see from his record. He excelled academically, but he was a very, very humble person. Humility was his way of life. He recognized everybody. Some people say that MAGOHA was arrogant.
I say no. MAGOHA was just a straight talking person. And if people don't like sometimes to hear the truth, it will say it the way he's saying it. You love it or not, but you say it. And he has excelled, as you have seen, wherever he's been, wherever he has gone to. That's why when my brother one time asked me, what do you think about this man? Do you think he can make a good minister for education? I had no hesitation saying, yes, this fellow will not disappoint you. And he did, as the president is going to confirm to you, he did not disappoint in that position. He has done a lot of things in his career as a medical doctor, as a teacher, and as a minister. So all those are actually recorded there. I don't want to repeat them. But it was something, and people were actually, some of his colleagues around say, oh, MAGOHA is not helping us. He's not helping the Luos in the field of academia. MAGOHA would say that, look, I don't need to help Luos. The only way I can help Luos is ensuring that there is a level playing field. There's no cheating in examinations. And then the Luos will excel. Given opportunity, equal opportunity, will excel. So I want to give equality, set a standard for each and every Kenyan child to be able to acquire quality education. And this he did very well. So I am proud to have been associated with MAGOHA. As you've been told, their mother comes from my village. I used to call him Uruwaya. Uruwaya. And he has been somebody who speaks very, very few words, but he does more things, and what he does has been seen. That's why I'm happy that so many people have come today here to witness his last wedding. And we've given an honor that is given to a Luo hero. Because they also do the same thing in their own country. That if you want to see, you know how this is done, there's a book written by the late Paramount Chief Palmboya, Jaduong Maduong Otho. How do you mourn him? And that is how we have mourned him today, as a great hero of the Luo community. This place, as we've already been told, is the citadel of education in Luo land. The late Paramount Chief Odera Kango, the pioneer of education here. And because of that, the Game people went to school much earlier than other people. And they all the time very proud that in the Game we are teeming with intellectuals. People don't throw stones. But if you throw a stone, you're likely to hit a professor or a lawyer. But I think these days other parts of Luland have also caught up. But that's why I'm also proud to be a son-in-law here. Okan Gimechinaka, Gimernabi, Giochenabi, Okamano. Miana Kawuna more, Biromona Bedu Kudukuono, Kawako Wudumrandiga. Oko Wudumrandiga. Kawuono Kawach Vichi Mangain. Abulos could ching machielo. Abulos ching machielo. Tungeo. Eh? Eh?
Hello? Ungen tiwi nyariyo. Tungo ni ajula julu. Tomore lungo ni hundwe. Ajula julu kibina ajula julu nse mola. Todo otimo nango. Okosiemo. No nyiso kamano. To hundwe beriambo. Hundwe beriambo. Ajula julu ncho wacho nyiso kuma no nyolwe. To hundwe bende okoye hundwe be wacho. Hundwe be ko wacho koso. Ema mian kwa na los kawuono. Kawi wadu pudia men. Tikone na yie. Miyakori. Wayi kodi. Okamano. Toka no puda men koso. Okono puda men. Toka no puda men. Okane wayi. Okane wayi. Tokne na modi. Okane no kaka opiny. Okane no kaka opiny. Aburo roso kudu bangeda mange yime kuche. Ana wacho jothuro kama wantie ni wana kere keke. Jawamono chumo tegno. Chumo tegno ni kumadu wanu madhiye. Kamadu wanu madhiye ni nguth mutegno. Okodwar jimandoke. Okodwar jimandoke. Uwinja jothurwa. Uwinja. Wadhi adhiya kaka wadhi change ni wadhi chopo. Tandoke odhi kitengi. Jumathundi madwa na gwotho kende. Uye kamano. Jothurwa uye. Kura muna kawo thuoloni so that I can invite another friend of my brother Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Asante sana. The clergy that is leading us in today's celebration, Mama Dr. Barbara MAGOHA, your wonderful son Dr. Michael and his wife, the extended MAGOHA family, my brother, my friend, my party leader, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, fellow mourners, we are here to join you today to celebrate the life of a great son of this country. Professor George MAGOHA was a man that many may say was before his time. A man committed to education, a man committed to environment, a man who neither saw color, tribe, region, or country, but saw each and every person as his brother and sister, entitled to equality in the eyes of God, but in law, and most importantly, MAGOHA, in terms of to education. I had an opportunity to work with Professor MAGOHA. I had an opportunity to interact severally with Professor MAGOHA, especially at a time when we were going through very difficult times in the education sector. Many of you will recall numerous cases of exam cheating that used to take place. And when MAGOHA's term as Vice Chancellor of Nairobi University came to an end, I requested him, because of what I had seen in terms of his contribution to Nairobi University, to take on the role of heading the National Examination Council. And under his leadership, at that time, together with Professor Matiang'i, they saw the eradication of cheating in our national exams. And they brought sanity and quality back to exams and to our education system. Hiyo kazi yote ilikuwa ya huyu mzee ambaye amelala hapa mbele yetu. As if that was not enough, we continued to work together. I appointed him as the Cabinet Secretary for Education. And again, a milestone for Kenya, leadership of the ministry. For the very first time in sub-Saharan Africa, MAGOHA managed to move the transition rate from primary to secondary education to 100%. Kazi ya huyu mzee ambaye amelala hapa. Making sure that no child was left without for education. Making sure that no child ended his education in standard 8 because of lack of fees or facilities. That was his commitment to education. That was his commitment to the children of this country. He went further, and as minister, working with his colleagues in East Africa, proceeded to work to develop curricula, to develop standards for universities that are now emulated not only in the East African community, but also in other countries like Malawi and Zambia and others who wanted to learn from him. But more importantly, as I said the other day, he also took on the challenge of refreshing our curriculum to make it better suited to help our children face the challenges of the future. And this he did not because he believed in it. And if truly what everybody has said here is what they mean, because I have sat and listened to so many eulogies here about what a wonderful man lies before us today, what a great giant lies before us today, then implement what he started and let this country benefit from what he worked so hard to achieve. Less politics and more work. That is who MAGOHA was. And that is what we should remember of him. And for us, we have lost a friend, we have lost a partner, we have lost a colleague, and we have lost a great giant of this country. And ours today is just to stand with you, Mama Barbara, to stand with your family, to stand with the extended family. The same way MAGOHA stood with us, we shall also stand with you to the very end. to the people of Game, be proud to have produced giants such as the one who lies before us. And you are known to produce giants. So musilale, muendelee na kazi, mutuletee wengine, na wengine, na wengine. Tujenge taifa letu la Kenya. Ama namna gani? Tumekubaliana? Na vile MAGOHA aliishi, vile nimesema, bila kuangalia kabila, bila kuangalia dini, bila kuangalia rangi. Hata bibi ametembea, ametoa kule Nigeria, ametuletea hapa. Viongozi tuache ukabila, tupendane kama Wakenya, tujenge nchi yetu pamoja na tuweze kujadiliana pamoja, tuwe na Kenya ambaye itakuwa ya kufana na ambaye kila Mkenya anatoshea na kila Mkenya anafurahia. Ama ni namna gani wenzangu? Ni hivyo. Hiyo ndiyo njia ya kumkumbuka ndugu yetu, rafiki yetu, na tunauliza Mwenyezi Mungu amlaze pahali pema, Mwenyezi Mungu amurehemu, Mwenyezi Mungu aendelee kubariki familia yake, jamii yake, wananchi wa Game na wananchi wa Kenya kwa jumla. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Finally, thank you, Your Excellency, for your very gracious remarks about our brother, our departed brother. Dr. Michael MAGOHA and your beautiful wife, who I met. Michael, I have nothing to say. It's your turn now.
Hi. Oh wow, there are so many people here. Clergy, distinguished guests, fellow mourners. If I could have your attention for a bit. I've been struggling to come here, but this time I do realize I prayed for this, and I realized he would want me to say something, so this wouldn't be for me. This would be what he would want me to tell you at this point. And it might offend some, it might be boring for others, but you'll know that it's coming from him. So, the first thing I keep hearing, you know this is not supposed to be a political event, but the reason is people forget the reason why my father would say that. It's because deep down, and it has been said before, he believed everybody was the same. And he thought things like politics, tribe, all of that stopped people from being the best version of themselves. He thought that if anybody ever focused on that, they forgot on just doing what they're supposed to do and being the best version of themselves. So that's one thing I'm happy that everybody's here, and you can tell, those who remember him, those who spend time with him, they always say it always comes back, and for that, I'm very grateful and very respectful. So that's the first thing. There are two things I have to say. Sorry, let me calm down. So there are three types of knowledge. There's explicit knowledge. This is where somebody has to tell you directly what to do. This is what you expect all the time. Somebody comes and tells you, do this, do this, do this, and you think you'll be learning. The second is implicit knowledge. This you're not told. This you watch, you look around, and you learn what to do. You learn how to react. You learn how to carry yourself. And then the last one, which has really hit me of late, is tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge, you will be told time and time again by many different people, but you don't realize how important it is until you are there at that time. And that keeps on coming. And I think that was the strength of my father. It's because he was brash, he was straightforward, he was not perfect, but he taught me it doesn't matter what a person is. What matters at the end of the day is what they do. And I'll repeat the same thing that I want you to take back. He always let everybody be the best version of themselves. If he ever saw you be a bit better, he would never let you go back. He would shout at you, he would tell you this, he would challenge you. If anything happened in your life, he completely switched and tried to help you come back up. And with that, he got very many different strange friends, and I think that that's a blessing. And that's the second thing that I want to say. And the last thing which keeps on coming is this idea of shoes to fill, etc. What's very strange is I've known my father through many different phases. But it seems the one that people will remember is the cabinet secretary, because that was the last one towards the end. But I remember of all of his different phases, the things that excited him were never the position. The thing that excited him was the ability to do something. And I remember this story came to me yesterday, and I started smiling. Was the first time the results came out, and he got the call when he found out where number 1 came from. And I can't remember, it was this young girl. And I remember he was with me at the time, and he was so happy, because it has been said here, it's because he was able to give somebody a chance. And I think that's what needs to be remembered. He believed everybody was the same, and he always believed he would fight to give you the chance to do as much as you can for everyone. And I think everybody should try and remember that as we keep moving. And with the last thing, and this goes to everybody from all walks of life, anybody who's here, and this is the thing I keep hearing his voice that would be telling me to say, is right now at this point, he wouldn't be too happy that everybody's focusing on the man. He would be happier in people focusing on the deeds. He would know that he was great, but what he would say is this, and he would tell me this: I understand it's well wishes if you keep telling me that I have big shoes to fill. He would laugh because he knows, and he has trained me, that is not the point. The point is for me to do my best, and if I see if I can help, I will try and help and make everybody be equal. I know that's my job. But the point that everybody else is missing, don't focus on him. Focus on what he would want. And what he would want is very simple. I don't have big shoes to fill. We all have big shoes to fill. This is for all of you. Wherever you go, start now. Be honest, try your best, upset people, but be forthright. You don't have to be the best person in the world. You don't have to be the nicest person in the world. But you know what you can do? You can give everybody an equal chance in whatever it is that you do. And if you do that, you will be honoring the memory of. So thank you all.
I'm going to ask the choir to give us a small interlude of music as I acknowledge what Dr. Michael MAGOHA has just said. Among the celebrants here, with your permission, is Father Ben Agunga, one of my cousins. Ben, please do stand up. Father Ben Agunga is one of those people that Professor MAGOHA took to school. And you can see Ben Agunga and the late brother of Professor Arnold Agunga, who we buried 2 years ago. It's the same family. Now, Ben lost both his parents. How old were you? How old were you then?
I was 20.
Yeah, he was a very young boy. I know there's another of his brother and sister who are here. He educated all those four children until now. You have one with a PhD, one is a lawyer, one is a successful business person in Mombasa, and one is a Catholic priest. That is the man who is lying down here. Thank you, Father. Thank you. Please, an interlude of music.